Crystal O'Connor, your host with Bullet Talk Radio. So good to be back with you again this fine Sunday evening. You're probably listening to this on your Monday morning commute or some commute at some point during the week. But for me, it is currently Sunday evening. So happy Sunday evening. And with that, we just had a holiday. You might have heard of it. Little day called Christmas. So I hope your holiday was fantastic. I hope it was safe and blessed and awesome. Mine certainly was. I have a little 3-year-old, and watching him open presents this year was just the best thing ever. And I must have been a good girl this year because I was gifted with a brand new Tascam digital recorder, which is what I am recording this episode on right now. I have my microphone hooked up to it, and I've got my canned headphones going on, and this is going to be great because I will be able to do so much with this once we get to take this show mobile. Yeah, I'm very excited. Can you tell? Can you tell I'm excited? Podcast plus techie goodies plus techie goodies I can use for gun stuff. Oh my god. So yeah, and we have another holiday coming up this week. Well, something called New Year's Eve. So I'm going to give you the same advice I gave you last week. Don't discuss politics with family. Don't discuss politics with friends unless you already know that they're a gun-toting friend. It just never goes well. At least in my family, it just never goes well. So word to the wise, really though, be safe, have fun, be merry, and I'll say it again considering it's New Year's Eve, be safe. All right? Okay, so let's get to the news. We have several stories that came out. It may have been Christmas week, but I was not disappointed in trying to find material for this week's episode. We'll start with a story out of Hartford, Connecticut, originally reported by CalGunLaws.com. Connecticut gun factory to be a national park. That's right, the Colt Gun Factory has apparently, after a decade-long fight, finally been designated as a national park. Funny though, absent from the celebrations was Colt Manufacturing Company. They are still upset with Connecticut for their gun control regulations passed in 2012, so they weren't there to be all cheery and happy, and really, I don't blame them. The factory is really interesting to see. It's distinguished by a blue dome on top, and the factory was opened way back in 1855. I don't know about you, but I can't remember back that far. As much as I would prefer not to travel to states that have really ugly firearm rules, yes, I'm talking to you, New York. A trip to Connecticut to see the Colt factory, that might be kind of cool. I might put that on my bucket list. The next one isn't quite so fun. Actually, it's really incredibly enraging. And unless you've been sleeping under a rock this week, you've probably already heard about it. But I felt it worth discussing on the show anyway, or should I say, I felt it worth ranting about on the show anyway, right? Okay, so public service announcement encourages children to steal parents' firearms and bring them to school. I'm just going to let that sit for a minute. Do you want me to reread that headline? Public service announcement encourages children to steal parents' firearms and bring them to school. Now, I first heard of this through CalGunLaws.com, but it wasn't long thereafter that it went completely viral. Pretty much every feed that I follow, gun, news, politics, and otherwise, had this on their newsreel at some point this week. In my show notes, there will be a link to the article that I referenced, and there will also be a link to the YouTube video, at least for as long as it's up. It's still up as of this morning being the day that I'm recording this, which is December 28th. So, if you have been under a rock, let me explain. The PSA is in the form of a video that was released. It encourages children to, well, to start with, fear firearms. Second, it encourages children to find a parent's firearm, then take said firearm without the parent's knowledge, then place said firearm in a backpack. Never mind if it's loaded or if the safety is on or taking any other safety and security precautions. The child in this PSA video literally takes the gun and without checking the weapon or anything, no holstering, no nothing, stuffs it in his main backpack compartment. Take the backpack with the gun in it to school. Wait until class is over and everyone save the teacher has cleared the room. Then walks up to the teacher's desk, pulls the gun from the backpack, and flopping it on the desk in front of her with a thud, exclaims, "I don't feel safe," with the gun in the house, and asks for the teacher to take the gun away. I mean, really, if you just need a good laugh, go watch the video, but you might want to have a shot of whiskey or bourbon first. It's really that bad. I've seen a lot of attacks over the years. I really have. I wouldn't say I think I've seen it all because I know other guys who have seen it all, but I've seen a lot. And this just goes above and beyond. It really goes above and beyond. So much so that even gun control organizations are pedaling back and trying to back their way out of supporting this particular video. It's that bad that even Brady doesn't want to put their name to this. First of all, completely forget the firearm stuff, right? I feel this video encourages children to not have a working, talking, trusting relationship with parents. If my child ever felt unsafe about anything, even if it was a decision his father or I have made for him or for our home, I want him to talk to us. Either one of us, if not both, so that we can address that concern. In this video, the child is literally finding themselves in a situation where they don't want to talk to their parents. They're going to a different adult. So their parent is what? Untrustworthy? In the video, the home is a middle-class home, and the mom is sitting on her couch reading a book, and the house is clean. I mean, this isn't like the kid is in the hood, so to say. This is in a bad family situation. It appears, based on how the video is staged, it's a pretty good family life situation. So why would the child not just approach the parent with their concerns? So that was actually, with everything else wrong with this video, that was one of the first things that stood out to me, that we're literally encouraging our children to not trust and not talk to the parents. And that bothers me. Now, I have the utmost respect for teachers, and I would love my child to have such a trusting relationship with his teachers. However, I don't wear rose-colored glasses when it comes to school. And even beyond that, this is not a topic that should be discussed with teachers. This is a family matter. So again, we're encouraging the child to look outside the home for solutions to things that should really be discussed inside the home. Even if the firearm is illegal or there is some reason otherwise why the child feels unsafe or incapable of discussing the issue with the parents or guardians, this is absolutely the most wrong and unsafe way to have a child broach the subject with another adult, teacher, or otherwise. Every gun handling rule that exists is broken in this video. The video gets disqualified as helpful simply on the merit of not displaying a proper way to handle and transport the firearm. Not that the child has any means of properly transporting a firearm, legally or otherwise. The child is not legally permitted to transport that firearm. So, there goes that. Next, we're encouraging a child to break even more laws, some of which are felonies, for bringing the gun to school and pulling it, even if it's just to place it on a desk. Even if the rest wasn't so bad, which it is. Can you hear that I'm frustrated by this? The notes that I have, when you read my show notes, you will see bullet point after bullet point after bullet point on this topic. It was just typing this out. Even if the rest wasn't so bad, we're now encouraging children to tattle on their parents who very well may be perfectly law-abiding people. Not only can this whole scenario get the child in very, very deep doo-doo, but now the parents are placed in hot water for what otherwise would have been a non-issue, including legally. So now you know, especially with the way our public school systems are, the child were to go through this whole process outside of the safety concerns, the legal concerns for the child, for how this has been handled. Next thing you know, CYS is going to be knocking on that parent's door. So even if they gave the child a legal wash, and even if the parents were on the up and up, somebody is going to be concerned for that child's welfare. I will say, in the video, I would have preferred to see the parent have the firearm locked up. But even if they have it in their dresser drawer with a trigger lock on it, if it's just a trigger lock or a small safe, like the safe I have a couple different safes, but I do have a small gun safe that I keep in my office with me. It could fit in a backpack. So, yeah, even if it weren't a safe or had a trigger lock and all of that, that's neither here nor there. The scenario still could have played out, and it still wouldn't have been a good one, but I would have liked to have seen at least that. But obviously the author wasn't exactly going for brownie points with the gun community or the gun safety community, right? So the video was posted by and you know how good I am with names, so here we go, time to butcher another name, apologies. The video was posted by a Regina Sinsick, who so far I've not found anybody who really knows who she is or how this video was actually funded. As I said earlier, even gun control groups are now distancing themselves from this video, which, for once, I have something I can agree with them on. Now, I looked at her YouTube channel, and she only has 4 other videos. And none of them are very interesting. None of them are very interesting. But again, the links will be in the show notes, so if you're interested, if you need a good laugh, go watch this video. If you need even more of a laugh, go look at her channel on YouTube. And that's about all I'm going to say about that for now. And of course, I welcome your comments, but I don't really necessarily need them in this case for this story, because I'm pretty sure that my audience, who y'all are amazing, I doubt any of you would disagree with what I just said. If you do, let me know. That would be interesting. Or maybe I said one thing kind of strange. I don't know. The wonders of YouTube. Come on. Scroll. So this nor- So this next story hails from the Washington Times. Again, link is in the show notes. Retired police officers are suing Washington D.C. for their right to carry firearms. Yes, you heard that right. They're retired, so they no longer have their service pistol on their hip all the time, and they need to apply for a permit the same as you and I do, or through a certain process that is afforded to them through a federal law to allow them to carry on a regular basis, being that they are now retired. These police officers inside Washington, D.C. used to work, some of them in jail, um, and they have received death threats by prior inmates, people they had arrested, or for the correction officers, those they had to care for while the prisoner was in jail. And now inmates are looking for retaliation. They have received death threats. At least one of the police officers in the case had actually had bullets streaming past his head. So these are very serious death threats by people who are willing to act on them. The officers attempted to apply for a permit to carry a firearm for protection, citing special circumstances of having received numerous death threats. They were denied. Good job, Washington, D.C. I mean, your district court just can't seem to make their point loud enough for you, can they? They are now suing the city in order to try to force the city's hand and providing them with access to their Second Amendment rights. Okay. Next up, I wanted to mention a blog post that I put out on the bullettalkradio.com website this week. You can find the URL in the show notes, or it's also on the front page of the site, or you can go to bullettalkradio.com/all lives matter. So when I recorded last week's episode, I actually had an additional 20 minutes of audio that I did not include. It was a bit of a rant from me about this whole Ferguson thing and this whole New York thing and the riots and the race baiting and the class warfare that we are being faced with. I just, the volume got so loud that my head just, it exploded. I'd say I swear, except I'm sitting here talking to you through a microphone and you would be like, well, your head couldn't have exploded, right? So, after listening to the audio, I didn't feel that it was very well organized. It was extremely rantish, And it didn't say nearly everything that I wanted to say by any stretch of the imagination. So I vowed instead to write a blog post where I could better formulate my thoughts. I really actually was trying not to comment on this issue because everybody else and their brother was commenting on the Brown case and the Gardner case and so on and so forth. And then two police officers who were doing their duty, doing their job, sitting in their patrol car, were shot execution style in the name of Michael Brown and Eric Gardner. And that's when I got mad. I got ticked off. And what's even worse were the riots that ensued after that, and the people that were coming to the defense of the shooter. Listen to me. I'm already ranting again. So, I even open up the blog post saying, warning, this is likely to be very rantish, and it's not about guns entirely, though they are involved. However, ever since Ferguson began to erupt into a volcano of who knows what prior to the grand jury decision regarding the shooting of Michael Brown and police officer Darren Wilson, my brain has literally been in explosion mode, and I just can't take it anymore. True story. So, go check out that blog post if you haven't already. I talk a little bit about the whole race issue, the whole Black Lives Matter versus All Lives Matter, and how I feel about that kind of conversation. And I talk a little bit about the fallen police officers in the situation and the sudden hate, the sudden seemingly growing public hate for police officers. And let me just say this, and then you can go read the article at your leisure. Let me just say, I honor and salute our military, our police officers, our first responders, our firefighters, our EMTs. I salute all of you. In every single group of humans that exist on this planet, there are good and there are bad. Now, the part I really don't understand is working with firearms groups for several years. I have seen firsthand people who were arrested, who were roughed up, even cases where people were killed by bad policing. There are so many available examples out there of bad policing. There's also so many examples out there of good policing and great policing. But if these people who want to complain about our police forces and talk about them as being dangerous and all of this other stuff, where were you with some of these other cases where it was actually true? Because it wasn't convenient. That's why. Because it wasn't convenient. So, bullettalkradio.com/all lives matter. Go take a look at my rant if you're bored. And speaking of that, the shooter of the police officers was actually mentally ill and what do they call it? Adrift and vengeful. He took medication at one point and even told a court that he was actually committed to a mental institution at one point. He had also been arrested for more than 20 years. The gun that was used, the ATF and investigators are working on trying to trace. It was originally purchased at a shop called Arrowhead Pawn in Jonesboro. The firearm used by the shooter was purchased at Arrowhead Pawn Shop in Jonesboro, Georgia. It was purchased legally, not by him. So, you have a gentleman who has a history of mental illness, who has been arrested and in and out of jail 20 times, who very obviously could never pass a proper background check, could never legally obtain a firearm. All those restrictions you gun control groups keep trying to push on us law-abiding citizens, none of them worked here. None of them worked here. And 2 police officers are dead. So what restriction would you have put into place that would have stopped this? Lost or stolen? That law has yet to actually had a single conviction. It's not lost and stolen. Straw purchasing? Well, there's already laws for that. I really doubt they're going to be able to trace every single hand this firearm actually transferred through. Both articles, there are 2 articles here. They are reported by the New York Times, and the links are in the show notes. Now for a little bit of fun. I am a girl, in case you haven't noticed. And I also have tried my hand as a jogger. I've been running for about a year now. And one of the big problems that I have had, both as a female who carries a firearm, and particularly as a jogger, or runner, as we like to call ourselves, is trying to conceal carry a firearm when you're not wearing a belt. This comes up so often, and it's really frustrating. So last winter, I didn't run because it gets so dark so fast. It's 5 o'clock and it's dark. It's not just getting dark, it's dark where I am. I'm just getting off work. So I didn't run. As many of you out there may know, females running by themselves, particularly at night, are a large target. Now, my area is a pretty darn safe area. We just don't have crime here. I'm not saying that crime doesn't happen or can't happen inside my bubble. It just usually doesn't. But that doesn't mean that I'm going to be stupid and go run when it's pitch black in an area where nobody else is, all by myself, wearing a ponytail, and have no way of defending myself. That's just not going to happen. So I set out for a search for this winter as to how I was going to carry and run. And I came across belly band holsters. Now, at first, the idea was kind of like, because I didn't think it was going to stay put. That was my big thing, is you're jumping around doing a high octane activity like running. I just did not feel that it was going to stay put. I was concerned about the extra weight off of one side of my body and how that would throw me off, how that would throw my stride off. I was concerned that it wouldn't be comfortable, that it would start to chafe. Those runners who do long distances would know plenty about chafing. So The Truth About Guns actually did a pretty nice review on a belly band holster called the Telor Tactical Body Band Holster. And it's very similar to the holster that I ended up purchasing that I've been using religiously since the sun started going down earlier in my area. It They are stating that this particular belly band is very comfortable. It is stretchy so that it's comfortable against the skin, but also allows you to make it pretty tight so it doesn't flop around on you. Similar to mine, it does use hook and loop, otherwise known as Velcro. Very, very strong Velcro. And it really helps keep the gun stuck to you. It doesn't jump around. So I have the link to that particular review in my show notes. It is a review worth checking out. Now, the belly band holster that I got, I have fallen in love with, and I use it not only for running, but anytime I'm wearing dress pants or a skirt where I don't have a belt, or sometimes even with my jeans when I do have a belt and I just don't feel like dealing with an IWB holster. As a lady, I've actually found the belly band holster to be kind of awesome. So I decided that the January product review that I put out, which I plan to release last week of January, is going to be on the belly band holster. It will be a video and we'll talk about its upsides, its downsides. You'll probably see me run around in it a little bit, jump around in it a little bit. I'll dress up in it. I'll wear my gym clothes in it and show you how these things work and give you my thoughts on it. So check out their review of the Telor Tactical Body Band and keep an eye out for the next Bullet Talk Radio product review coming end of week in January. And with that, we will close with, again, The Truth About Guns put out a quote of the week. I really like the quotes that they like to put out, so I've been reading them on air. I hope they don't mind, but the link to this article will be in the show notes, so go check it out. The quote is, "There is no New York City institution more dedicated to the proposition that Black Lives Matter than the New York Police Department. Thousands of black men are alive today who would have been killed years ago had data-driven policing not brought down the homicide levels of the early 1990s. The Garner death was a tragic aberration in a record of unparalleled restraint. The New York Police Department fatally shot 8 individuals last year, 6 of them black, all posing a risk to the police, compared with scores of blacks killed by black civilians. But facts do not matter when crusading to bring justice to a city beset by centuries of racism." Heather McDonald in The Big Lie of the Anti-Cop Left Turns Lethal at cityjournal.org. Okay, folks, so that is the end of this week's episode. And again, please, please, please do not drink and drive for New Year's Eve or any point, really. Have a very safe, have a fantastic New Year's Eve and New Year's Day, and we will be back with another episode released late Sunday night for your Monday morning commute. If you like the show and you're listening from iTunes or Stitcher, do me a favor, rate the show or write a review for the show in iTunes or Stitcher. I would really appreciate it. You know, these companies, that's how they do the search rankings and stuff. And if you don't like it, then say so. If you do like it, say so. But if you don't like it, send me some feedback. Let's talk about it. Okay? Share the show via the webpage or on Facebook, Twitter, or Google+. I'd really appreciate it. Really, the best compliment you could give me is to share this with your friends. I have a lot of hopes for this show. That's why I went ahead and really spent some time rebooting it, as you heard in episode 1. So if you like where we're headed, then please share the show with your friends. BulletTalkRadio.com, on Twitter at BulletTalkRadio, Facebook.com/BulletTalk, plus.google.com/BulletTalkRadio. And if you really like the show and want to see it go places, literally, support the show at patreon.com/BulletTalk. See you next week.